Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas and I have the presence in the frame of Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh. Welcome, Dr. Sahab. Namaste.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
So many important developments happening, and we'll begin today's this week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh by looking at America and especially the huge $1.2 trillion infrastructure package which President Biden succeeded in passing in the Senate. So, as we look at the promises through this package, your first response to this overall idea of President Biden?
I think it's a great package. It's really a great stimulus to the economy, and it brings a lot of jobs to the people, and it will increase our crumbling infrastructure to bring it to up-to-date and state-of-the-art infrastructure. And therefore, I think it's a great bill, and I must congratulate both the President and the Senate to pass this $1.2 trillion bill.
And another important feather in the cap of President Biden is this is bipartisan, and 19 Republicans have also supported this. So that, I think, also proves a sort of success as far as his leadership is concerned.
Yes, and anything this kind of a bill, which is has a lot of long-lasting impact on the America, on the economy, on the people's life. I think being a bipartisan is a great thing. That way, it's real democratic bill, you know.
And now, as it moves further, and we see how overall it turns out to be. But if I may seek your input on some of the major features which are laid out in the bill from the point of view of how it is likely to work on economy, whether it will have more deficit, because most of the provision in this 1.2 trillion bill, we don't see immediately economy gaining. It is all about spending, whether it is about roads and bridges, whether it is about transit, or about broadband internet. So how do you see as a normal economic equation, is it going to increase more deficit for America?
Well, it will increase the deficit in the short term, but I think it will create a lot of new jobs. It will create high state-of-the-art infrastructures. And eventually, that state-of-the-art infrastructure will lead to booming of the economy. And even in the beginning, even though there is more spending, but more jobs will be given, and so people will have more money in their pocket, and that leads to the growth of the economy. Whether economy is from the supply side or from the deficit side, doesn't matter in long term, because usually it balances out by itself.
Very well, that analysis is adding to the hope that it will have overall positive impact. I would also check with you on the provision of about $65 billion to expand broadband internet access. Now, generally speaking, as we see, the broadband as is provided by private carriers. Now, government-private partnership and such huge investment, how important do you think it will have in terms of the way America functions as an open market?
Well, I mean, always a private-public partnership of any kind, and particularly in the very important bill of any kind, it's very important, because by having a private-public partnership, the whole agenda gets protected by government support, as well as there is a private partnership, so it has its own way of governing, and that helps in the long run. So I think I would prefer this private-public partnership, which is kind of a win-win situation for the any project and its long-term impact.
And another important area where I see the farsightedness of American leadership is to earmark $7.5 billion for improving infrastructure for charging of electrified vehicles. I think that's quite exciting, and also it shows the visionary approach of America. Your response and importance of EV in terms of taking care of our environment.
Well, I mean, EV is very important part of the taking care of the environment, because by using the EV or having the EV, it really controls the gas emission and controls the getting the environment dirtier, and therefore it's very important. And I think now most of the companies are making EV, and I think government may make it mandatory or compulsory. At least 25% or 30% of their all vehicle of all the car company should be EV. And I think by doing that, government will be kind of helping overall the climate changes.
And I'm just loudly thinking with you, probably government should also work in collaboration with car manufacturers to come up with models which are offered at lower rate and which are EV. Because right now hybrid and these kind of cars are priced way higher, so a normal consumer find them unapproachable. Yeah.
I think it will happen, because as time goes, I mean, most of the car company will come up with the smaller car, EV car, which are EV car, and then it can be more affordable to the most of the public.
And now also moving towards another important subject, sitting in New York and New Jersey, our focus is even more on the way case related to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is turning out. And on Tuesday, he has stepped aside to sort of help the impeachment investigation. Your first response to this important news?
I think it's a good move, and that it's a very moral move. And by doing that, I think what he is offering is that, okay, please do the impartial investigation without any pressure or without any interference. And whatever comes out in the investigation will determine whether the governor will be impeached or not. And let's wait, time will tell us.
Of course, time is going to tell us, but as what we have been told so far, he has been charged for being sexually harassed multiple women, and that way he violated state law is the charge. And he says that this is politically motivated. How do you look at it? And the way he gave his speech with resignation, he is referring to himself as a fighter, and as per his own viewpoint, he is clean, and these are false allegations on him.
Well, as you know, in the democracy or our legal system, always consider everyone is innocent until it proven guilty. So I think he also has a right to plead his or defend himself and say and prove that he is not guilty. And if it is so, then so be it. And if it is guilty, then he should be prosecuted. And now there is a criminal charges, so he might end up serving their even jail term. We don't know. So I think whatever happens, justice has to be served, and justice and all the victims and all on the both sides should be given opportunity or given the fair hearing to them.
I totally agree with you. And here, another angle is worth considering, as pointed out by Governor, that he, as per his understanding, has never crossed any line. But then he says something interesting, which is worth thinking about, and he says he doesn't know when the lines are redrawn. He also talks about cultural shift and generational shift. So, which leaves a sort of ambiguity in the space of how one human being is interacting with another, especially with person of another gender. Do you see there is a lack of clarity in terms of how people perceive what are the lines, and how law can actually make it very firm and clear that this is the line, then what happens of the individual freedom, etc.?
Well, I agree that always, as time goes, as decade goes, always the definition of the certain thing which we may consider a few years ago normal, it may not be normal, or moral, it may not be moral. And we have to live with the time, and whatever time dictates, I think we all should follow that time guideline and behave morally as well as legally.
So here, switching to the lane of psychology a little bit. So each human being have a little bit of variation in the way he expresses himself or herself, whether through words or through body language. And so this confusion is likely to stay, because I think it is very difficult for law to be specific that you do this, you don't do this, you touch here, you don't touch here. This is how the other person perceives. So I think probably we will need additional training for political leaders to go through before they take any high office.
Yes, there should be kind of continuous education regarding how to behave, how to morally, what is morally acceptable, not acceptable, and not only behavior but also how you treat other people, particularly the minorities. You have to be sensitive about their background, their understanding, and their all the language and culture. And I think one must get educated, and all professionals, we doctors, lawyers, we all have this CME, in this social CME we take and remind ourselves that as of 21st century, what is right and what is wrong. And I think everyone should get educated about it.
Absolutely. And moving towards another important area which relates to dignity, safety, security, and opportunity of growing as a nation. And from that point of view, how maritime confrontations sometimes check the growth of nations, as well as doesn't allow them to flourish as much as they can. That point, Dr. Parikh, was brought in front of the august audience at United Nations Security Council as president for the first time by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Your response to his short but pointed address at the United Nations?
I think what he said, though it was short but very up to the point, and it implies and it is correct that how all the member nations should behave with each other, how they help each other, and how they prosper together and with the help of each other. And that's I think what Prime Minister said. It's very relevant and very, very welcome speech by Prime Minister of India. And this shows that now India is arrived in the world stage, and India cannot be ignored. It's a third largest economy, plus it's a second largest populated country. And so India has its own role to play in the world environment.
Absolutely. And at this point, as we talk about India, India is ready to celebrate its 75th Independence Day and being conferred Padma Shri by Government of India, you are also asked to participate in series of presenting Jan Gana Man, and based on my informal interaction with you, you feel quite happy about the way digital media is also being used to enhance the spirit of celebrating India's democracy. So your response overall, the way things are moving towards this big celebration?
I think it's a 75th birthday of the India's independence. This shows that 75 years is a long time. India, in spite of its challenges, lack of education, overall literacy, lack of less literacy, and Indian democracy survived all the challenges, all ups and downs. And kudos to the Indian population, Indian people, that they like the democracy and they work for it, and they are kind of deserve to be a democratic country. And congratulations to all the people of India to be part of the democracy and be free and prosper and free economy.
Wonderful. So as I thank you very much for being a part of this weekly, taking your time and connecting with our viewers, Padma Shri Dr. Sudeep Parekh, your parting words from today's sharing.
Well, I mean, dear friends, let me wish you again very, very happy and healthy 75th Independence Day of India. We are very proud of India, our motherland, because motherland is 75 years old, without any dictatorship, without any communism, without any other restriction. We all kind of work together and grow together in last 75 years. And really, I pray God that keep blessing us, Indian populations, Indian people, and we can be one day #1 leader of our world. Thank you. We'll see you again next week. God bless America, God bless India, and God bless Indian American community. Jai Hind. Namaskar.